The following information is supported by a massive amount of documentation, much of it available on the internet, including my website at holysmoke.org. Much of it comes from L. Ron Hubbard himself in his own diaries and writings, as well as from his family members, and also from documents seized by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation. In a letter to the United States Veterans Administration dated October 15, 1947, L. Ron Hubbard begged for psychiatric treatment. He wrote, in part, quote, "Toward the end of my service, I avoided, out of pride, any mental examinations, hoping that time would balance a mind which I had every reason to suppose was seriously affected," unquote. He also wrote in that letter, quote, "I was placed on certain medication back east and have continued it at my own expense," unquote. Therein is the key to his mental distress. That, quote, "certain medication," unquote, was for venereal disease, gonorrhea, which he acquired from a whore named Ginger. He also thought he got gonorrhea a second time from a whore whom he called Fern, but that turned out to be a different disease. Hubbard was greatly distressed at his penis's inability to become erect, as well as his lack of sex drive, to such an extent he medicated himself with injections of testosterone and Stilbestrol. Stilbestrol is a drug used by veterinarians on female dogs to help the dogs control their bowel movements. It is also used as a palliative for victims of prostate cancer, which I suspect is why Hubbard was taking it. He found the effect soothing. He also took testosterone because Stilbestrol was known to make testicles atrophy, also make male breasts enlarge, reduce male potency, and feminize the patient taking the drug. In Hubbard's diary, he wrote, quote, "Stilbestrol in 5 milligram doses makes you thrill more to music and color and makes you kinder." He's writing about himself. "You have no fear of what any woman may think of you, of your bed conduct. You know you are a master. You know they will be thrilled," unquote. This self-medication made L. Ron Hubbard the man that he was for the last 40 years of his miserable, pathetic life. How he acquired those medications and other drugs was simplicity itself. He visited the Veterans Administration and stole a doctor's prescription pad. He then wrote prescriptions for any and all drugs he wanted. On board his ship Apollo, he once bragged about his vast drug supply aboard, stating he had access to anything and everything pharmaceutical that anybody could possibly wish for, and then some. In one of Hubbard's diaries, he continued on that theme, quote, "In 1942, December 17th or thereabouts, while training in Miami, Florida, I met a girl named Ginger who excited me. She was a very loose person, but pretended a great love for me. From her, I received an infection of gonorrhea. I was terrified by it, the consequences of being discovered by my wife, the Navy, my friends. I went to a private doctor who treated me with sulfathiazole and so forth. I thought I was cured, but on the plane headed for Portland, Oregon, I found I was not. I took to dosing myself with sulfa in such quantities that I was afraid I had affected my brain," unquote. And he was right. I should also mention that the same diary entry he wrote, quote, "I carried this fear of the disease, gonorrhea, to sea with me. I was reprimanded in San Diego in mid-43 for firing on the Mexican coast and was removed from command of my ship. This on top of having sunk 2 Jap subs without credit. The way my crew lied for me at the court of inquiry, the insults of the high command, all combined to put me in the hospital with ulcers," unquote. I think it rather amazing that Hubbard would admit that his crew lied for him at the Navy Board of Inquiry regarding Hubbard's attacking Mexico. As for sinking 2 Japanese submarines without credit, his own official report on the incident specifically asked that no such credit be given. On December 6, 1945, Hubbard abandoned his family, his first wife at the time being Polly Grubb, and he went to Pasadena, California, and he took up residence with black ceremonial sex magician John Whiteside Parsons. Parsons was a founding member of the Jet Propulsion's Laboratory. A book about Parsons, which includes he and Hubbard engaging in homosexual ceremonial sex magic, was published around 2 years ago. Hubbard managed to find enough libido to persuade Parsons' girlfriend, Sara Northrup, to leave Parsons and run away with him, taking Parsons' money at the same time. Eventually, Sara and Hubbard married each other without Hubbard bothering to divorce his first wife, Ms. Grubb, first. Very sadly and tragically, L. Ron Hubbard 3 years later took to torturing Sara Northrup and performing bizarre mind control experiments upon her. He tried to talk her into killing herself after she told him she wanted a divorce from him. In April of the year 1951, Sara managed to file for divorce, during which time she testified to the freaky rituals and abuses Hubbard inflicted upon her. To blackmail Sara into keeping silent about his insane abuses, Hubbard kidnapped Sara's infant child, Alexis, and gave the infant to 2 accomplices named Vince McGonigle and Frank Dessler. McGonigle took the child to Cuba, while Hubbard and Dessler kidnapped Sara herself on the 24th day of February 1951. Took her to Yuma, Arizona, and after explaining to Sara what would happen to the infant if Sara didn't wise up and drop the divorce case, they dumped her on the side of the highway to think about a threat. Sara did not cancel the divorce. Instead, her lawyer filed a writ of habeas corpus on the 10th of April 1951, demanding the return of the infant. The FBI got involved, as well as the Department of State, and eventually the infant was returned to her mother. For the next 30 years, by the way, Hubbard kept spies watching Sara and the daughter Alexis, apparently because he was fearful they would demand the rightful share of his Dianetics and Scientology business profits. More facts about L. Ron Hubbard to follow in preceding videos.